Hello, fellow humans. Welcome to the It Belongs in a Museum podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Martinez, history buff and overall nerd. Today's topic, the repatriation of the Rosetta Stone, currently located in the British Museum. Isn't it finders keepers? Shouldn't they give it back? Does it even matter? Stay tuned and find out. The sponsors for our episode are as follows. Herpetological Solutions, LLC. Snake removal. We won't ask why there are so many. Sandbag precision weights. For when you need the weight to be exactly right. Results may vary. Antiquities Anonymous. A 12-step program for compulsive collectors. Step 1. Give it back. Herringbone & Sons Hatters, established 1912. Crushable, packable. And it always finds its way back to you. Somehow, every time. I can still recall the soggy London evening when I first saw it. After shaking off the rain, I was awestruck by the immensity of the lobby. It had to have been at least 3 stories high, with a replica of an ancient Greek temple, and a glass ceiling supported by a triangle pattern of steel. While I was trying to figure out where I should go first, I noticed a large room ahead of me, with a crowd. I decided to join the rest of the sheep and see what all the hubbub was about. Once I made my way to the front, I finally saw what it was. The Rosetta Stone. Okay, so for those who haven't seen it, we're talking about a broken slab of granodiorite. I apologize if it's not pronounced that way. And it is about chest high to me. I'm about 5'6". And the surface is densely populated with 3 different scripts. Hieroglyphic, Demotic, not demonic, different podcast, and Greek. It is a royal decree issued by Ptolemy V in 196 BCE. Apparently, it marks the anniversary of his coronation. Also mentions how awesome he is and what should be done to celebrate him. What a narcissist. But in true narcissist form, that particular artifact is the single most visited artifact in the British Museum. You know what else is interesting, though? That object restored the Egyptians' ability to read the words of their ancestors. And it is the one object that Egyptians cannot see at home. Unfortunately, the Rosetta Stone did not arrive in London as a gift or even a purchase. It arrived as a spoil of war. It even says it in Latin and English on the sides of it. It may as well have like an orange fluorescent sticker that says stolen slapped on it. In case you need me to say it, I will. To quote Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, Harrison Ford's iconic lines. It belongs in a museum. But the question is, which one? The artifact needs to go back to Egypt. It was stolen by one colonizing empire from another. Egypt had nothing to do with it. Keeping it isn't simply a display of a colonial relationship. It continues the colonial relationship. There have also been arguments made by various organizations, including museums, that their maintaining of an object is saving it. And that's not true, especially when you consider Egypt is perfectly capable of maintaining their own culture, and it belongs to them anyway. Now, I loathe giving the other side of an argument that I perceive to be unjust and wrong a safe space to speak. However, I want to be the example, and I am an adult. In the interest of objectivity and fairness, we will talk about the other side of the argument. But for now, we're moving on. First things first, how exactly did the Rosetta Stone end up in British hands anyway? Well, in July of 1799, during Napoleon's occupation of Egypt, French soldiers discovered it while reinforcing a fort near a town that they referred to as Rosetta. By 1801, the British Empire decided that they wanted a piece of the action in Egypt, so they decided to attack the French. It's important to note that for a while there was always this whole English-French rivalry thing, but that's a discussion for another time. After the French lost the battle, a treaty was drawn up called the Capitulation of Alexandria. For those who are wondering, this treaty was negotiated between the Ottomans, the French, and the British. I suppose the British thought that the Rosetta Stone was cool, so they decided to take it with them back to England, even aboard a captured French ship to add insult to injury. By 1802, the Rosetta Stone was dropped off at the British Museum by order of King George III, and that is where it remained ever since. So, who was missing from the negotiating table for that treaty? I'll give you a hint. It was Egypt. And yes, people are asking for it back. In my research, I easily came across 2 petitions. One from repatriaterashid.org and one from hawasahi.com/repatriation. So just to summarize, clearly the Rosetta Stone, among other artifacts as well, was taken under duress and was negotiated between 3 different empires, none of which were Egyptian. And all this took place, including negotiations, on Egyptian soil. Looks like the British Museum has some explaining to do. Or at least one would think. The museum holds firm on its stance that the acquisition of the Rosetta Stone was lawful because of some signature of an Ottoman admiral that exists on the treaty. Mind you, the Ottoman Sultan may have been the ruler at the time, but he probably shouldn't have been in Egypt in the first place, and he wasn't Egyptian, so who was he to speak on behalf of the people? The British Museum also states that the Egyptian government has never made a formal request to get the artifact back. I don't understand why you have to fill out a form to get something back that was stolen from you. And by the way, are the petitions not formal enough for you? But what do I know? Even more curious, they felt the need to point out how 21 of 28 known copies of the exact same decree, in particular, already exist in Egypt. So I took $50 from you, but that's okay because I know you have more money in the bank. So it's fine, right? I highly doubt the Egyptian government is treating these stones like Pokemon. Gotta catch them all, right? The Egyptians want the Rosetta Stone back, and not just because it's theirs, but that stone is the one that gave their ancestors a voice. Not that this has to be explained to anybody, but it's not simply important to history, it's important to their history. The British Museum is definitely using some interesting logic. You know who else has logic but sound? Morag Kersel. I apologize about the pronunciation again. She's an archaeologist at DePaul. In the Brown Journal of World Affairs, she coined the term acquisition apologetics. She argues that factual stories of theft are reworded as, and I quote, positive narratives of salvation, heroism, and the greater good. In other words, I didn't steal your car. You were just going to ram into something anyway. I saved it. Actually, I'm a hero. You're welcome. What kind of gaslighting nonsense is that? This also implies a false binary. Think about it. Well, I could have left it, but it would have been destroyed. Of course, any rational person knows that there are other options. You could have acquired the artifact and then handed it over to the correct people instead. But you kept it. Why is it such a far stretch of the imagination to come up with that? The answer is, it's not. I'm sure there are smart people at the British Museum. That's kind of the point. I'm sure they know the artifact does not belong to them. All they have to do is give it back. But why would they? The only thing I could think of is this. Referring back to an earlier statement, it is the single most visited item there. I imagine one of the higher-ups is concerned about reduced attendance. But I find that amusing. Having been to that museum, I can tell you that there are plenty of other stolen artifacts for people to go and see. This should not be a concern. As promised, there are people who would agree with the British Museum's intentions. One of those people is Tiffany Jenkins. She debates this in her article featured in The Guardian entitled, "Why Western Museums Should Keep Their Treasures." Tiffany almost implies a slippery slope concept where everything in any museum would have to be given up, and the acquisition of any artifact is potentially ugly, and I quote, through modern day eyes, no matter what. I don't disagree with that statement. But honestly, so what? Doing the right thing is hard. If it wasn't, everyone would do it all the time. Yes, lots of artifacts are tainted in many ways, but leaving things as is favors the ones who are currently in possession of the item and not the victims of colonization. She thinks artifact acquisition is ugly. Well, that's because colonization is ugly. You have to deal with the ugly before you can make something beautiful. Righting wrongs is beautiful. You start the process with an apology. Nothing says I'm sorry like giving someone stuff back. This simple gesture leaves room for forgiveness and therefore mends relationships. I think no matter who you are, everyone would agree that humanity's relationships with each other could use a little healing right now. I'm sure that the curators of the brand new state-of-the-art Grand Egyptian Museum are dying to get the Rosetta Stone back. I'll bet you they even have a special place picked out for it already to go on display. People at the British Museum don't panic. Even Dr. Zahi Hawass says that not everything has to return. But what if there was a way to still make very culturally important artifacts available to everybody? What if after the return of artifacts takes place, there's something we could do to ensure that people still have the opportunity, rather, to become educated about each other? Maybe there could be a loan system where once in a while a piece is on loan. I'm aware that things like this happen anyway, but maybe something a little bit more official can be worked out. How about the United Nations Educational, Science, and Cultural Organization, also known as UNESCO, could maybe work out a branch within their office so that artifacts could go on tour around the world, and then when they're not on tour, they go back to their home nations. I do sympathize a little bit with the museums. Not everyone can travel everywhere to see everything. But even so, as it is now, not everybody can get everywhere to see things where they are currently anyway. So what difference does it make? But maybe either way, we can work something out. But the first step is to get everybody home. Hopefully, anybody listening has heard more than enough information they need to make a very educated decision on the subject of the repatriation of the Rosetta Stone. Now go ahead, choose wisely. Thank you for listening to this episode. Next week, did aliens really build the pyramids? Until next time. Sources for this episode are as follows. Al Jazeera's Act of Plunder, Egyptians Want Their Rosetta Stone Back, November 30th, 2022. Repatriation by Dr. Zahi Hawass from www.hawasszahi.com/repatriation. Why Western Museums Should Keep Their Treasures from The Guardian by Tiffany Jenkins, November 25th, 2018. Acquisition Apologetics, A Case for Saving the Past for the Future. The Brown Journal of World Affairs by Morag Kersel, 2016. Repatriate Rashid from www.repatriaterashid.org. Finders Keepers, The Repatriation of Egyptian Art. The Journal of Technology, Law and Policy by A.Y. Salem, 2005.